People have always found Earth's resources insufficient. They sought to explore oceans, mountains, underground, the skies, and even reach for space. Not all human activity benefits the planet. Sometimes curiosity and greed come at a higher price than the resources extracted. Ruthless mining often leads to vast chasms and deep pits, which in turn results in natural disasters. Welcome to the Top Facts channel, and today we've prepared a selection of the most dangerous holes on the planet. It seems someone is determined to dig all the way to hell. Let's dive in and explore the unexplored world of black holes on Earth. Well, whenever a hole is created, water tends to find its way in there. Since ancient times, people have dug wells to store fresh water, and some of these holes still serve civilizations today. You'll be surprised, but grand architectural structures are by no means exclusive to the modern era. Now we'll show you an impressive structure that still astounds. The architectural complex Chad Bairi is located in a small Indian village of the Papaneri, which is one of the oldest and deepest deep wells in India. This giant structure resembles an inverted pyramid and plunges over 100 feet underground. 3 of its walls contain 3,500 steps, and inside is a small murky green pond. The 4th side of the well features a few chambers adorned with columns and carved sculptures of deities. Historians can still not determine the exact construction date of it, but some suggest the well is built between the 9th and 11th centuries, while others believe the enormous water reservoir appeared much earlier, 600 years BC. Local residents don't delve into the dates, telling tourists that the ancient well was built by demons in just one day. Some benefits of civilization can be used on a large scale for controlling nature, but also very dangerous for human life on a smaller scale. The Monticello Dam came through as a remarkable story. The previous landowners sold the land to pay off a gambling debt, and decades later, the town of Monticello arose there. In the 20th century, oil was discovered in the area and the town began to grow. However, the Puda Creek River would overflow during cold seasons. To combat the floods, it was decided to build a dam. First, a bridge was erected. And then, despite protests from the locals, trees were cut down, houses demolished, and 300 graves from a local cemetery was relocated to a cliff. 4 years later, the construction was completed and the town was submerged underwater. The dam formed Lake Berryessa, named after the original ranch owners of the land. It's one of the largest lakes in California, with a shoreline stretching 155 miles. Around 200 feet from the dam, there's a whirlpool, a massive funnel 70 feet deep, visible only during dry weather, but hidden underwater during the wet season. Engineers opted for a vertical spillway design due to the landscape, and it effectively performed its function. It was expected that the spillway would be used every 50 years or so, but in recent years it has opened only twice, in 1997 and 2006, after several weeks of heavy rainfall. The official name is Morning Glory Spillway, but locals call it simply the Glory Hole. Access to fishing and swimming are prohibited. The reservoir is strictly technical, yet accidents have not been avoided. Lake Berryessa has been the largest body of water in Napa County. It is popular for all kinds of water recreation. In 1997, a woman named Emily couldn't resist the current, and although she was a strong swimmer, she clung to the guardrail for 20 minutes, but sadly the tragedy could not be averted. She was pulled down. The hole does indeed look eerie, like a gateway into another dimension, and many people seem to underestimate its danger. Now, let's talk about the worst-case scenario. When a giant hole appears in the middle of a city, everything can fall into the abyss in mere seconds. The worst part is that such an event is impossible to predict. Imagine walking through a bustling city street on a typical day when the ground suddenly opens, swallowing buildings, cars, and tragically, sometimes lives. This dramatic scene took place in Guatemala and occurred more than once. Sinkholes appeared unexpectedly in residential areas in 2007, 10, and 15. But how can we understand what causes the earth to collapse in the middle of a busy urban area? The thing is, Guatemala City is mostly built on a volcanic pumice, a porous and erosion-prone soil. Plus, underneath the soft layer, there's a network of sewers and water pipes, some of which are over a century old. When the old pipes leak, water starts washing away the soil beneath, creating voids that gradually grow larger. When the void reaches critical size, the land can suddenly collapse, as this happened in 2010. The sinkhole was around 60 feet wide and roughly 300 feet deep, swallowing a 3-story building and another house whole. Another city is slowly dying because beneath it lies, essentially, emptiness. Berezniki, the second largest city in the Perm region of Russia, sits on the banks of the Kama River and once held prominent positions in potash mining. As of 2021, its population was around 140,000, but the city is gradually turning into an abandoned area. Tens of thousands of residents have already left. This region is full of mines, and the ground beneath is riddled with tunnels that go hundreds of meters deep. Now, the potash deposits in the mines are slowly dissolving due to water infiltration, and the entire area is pockmarked with gaping sinkholes. The largest of the holes, called Grandpa, is around 1,300 feet wide, critically threatening the infrastructure, including the railway. The government began monitoring the sinkholes, which started appearing like dominoes in new locations. Seismic sensors and satellite imagery were employed to predict the track changes in the city's topography. But despite these efforts, some parts of the city are now considered unsafe. This trend is observed in many Russian cities with mono-industry economies. When resources are depleted, cities of high unemployment and rising crime occur. Once thriving cities with cozy parks, museums, and department stores now turn into uninhabited ruins. In the last decade, giant holes have been appearing across Siberia. The first one, discovered in 2014 on the Yamal Peninsula, whose name literally translates from the Nenets language as the end of the world. Researchers believe these holes are forming due to melted permafrost. When thawing, they release methane, a powerful greenhouse gas. This gas builds up pressure until an explosive release occurs, creating a hole in the ground. The effect is like a cork popping from a bottle when shaken, but on a much larger scale in nature. However, local reindeer herders describe the tundra as breathing through these holes. The Yamal crater was first explored in 1960, but only in 2001 was it confirmed to be the deepest cave with vertical walls in the world. It reached a diameter of 130 feet and a depth of over 160 feet. Many wild theories initially emerged, from meteorites to missiles to UFOs. Not only the tundra, but even sands can be prone to forming sinkholes. The town of Mount Baldy in California lies on the border between San Bernardino and Los Angeles counties. This place wasn't particularly noteworthy until 2013, when an unforgettable incident occurred on the local shore. The sand dunes captured national attention when a sudden sinkhole in the sands swallowed a 6-year-old boy. The child miraculously survived after spending several hours under 10 feet of sand. The event caused great concern across the state. This incident led to scientific investigation, and geologists discovered that sinkholes are formed due to decaying trees buried beneath the sand. As the trees decompose, they leave behind voids or pockets, and when the sand structure loosens there, sudden and dangerous sinkholes form. But that's not all. The analysis revealed that these are not just empty pockets. They consist of sand and decomposed wood, creating a loose and unstable material, making the predictions of the movements of the dunes difficult. Another reason for the appearance of huge pits is industrial activity, specifically metal or gemstone mining. The Bingham Canyon Mine, also known as the Kennecott Copper Mine, looks like a giant natural amphitheater from above. It's one of the largest copper mines in the world, located in the Ojai Mountains of Utah near Salt Lake City. This colossal pit is the deepest in the world, extending 2.5 miles wide and plunging 4,000 feet into the Earth's crust. Its origins date back to the mid-1800s, when the Mormons first discovered copper in the region, and wasn't until 1902 that large-scale production began. This mine operates 24/7, 365 days a year, showing the continuous demand for copper. However, there's high risk that production growth could soon lead to serious environmental issues. This Erie Pit is another enormous copper mine that played a significant role in the U.S. mining operations. However, the mine closed in 1982, leaving behind a gaping void that soon began to fill with groundwater. Today, Berkeley Pit is listed as among the most dangerous places in the world. The pit itself is over 1,600 feet deep, but The lower 1,000 feet is submerged in highly acidic red-tinted water, colored by heavy metals. When the water interacts with metals and minerals, it created a highly acidic environment, a liquid similar to lemon juice. This toxic mixture is overloaded with hazardous chemicals, making the lake one of the deadliest places on the planet. Nevertheless, science research has been conducted. One of the most astonishing discoveries made in the lake was the presence of a unique microorganism that adapted to thrive in the acidic environment. Not only do they survive, but they also produce substances that could potentially be effective in fighting cancer. Surprising, right? A cure for a deadly disease found in a toxic lake? Scientists believe that the microorganism is capable of withstanding the acidity of these pits, that someday the same feature might help us finally cure a disease that claims the lives of at least 2 people in the US every 3 minutes. A massive sinkhole suddenly opened up in the Atacama Desert in Chile. Near the Al Caparosa copper mine, a hole appeared larger than a tennis court. The opening, around 105 feet in diameter and 200 feet deep, is likely related to the activities of the Canadian company Lundin Mining, which operates copper extraction. The sinkhole emerged in 2022 near the town of Tierra Amarilla, roughly 500 miles from Chile's capital, Santiago. The perfectly round hole from above looks like it was drilled by a giant drill. It's noteworthy that Chile produces more copper than any other country in the world, supplying 25% of the global copper market. When mining occurs at an intense pace, vast voids can form in the ground, always risking collapse. Authorities requested experts to investigate the cause of the sinkhole. Of course, technological errors are suspected, but most likely that the huge cavity had already existed deep underground without anyone knowing. To paint a picture, it could comfortably house 2 statues of liberty. The incident necessitated the immediate halt of mining operations and sparked a series of investigations. Fortunately, the collapse occurred far from residential areas and caused no injuries or hardships, except perhaps for the mining company. This picturesque turquoise eye, the Kimberley mine in South Africa, is the cradle of the modern diamond industry, and once it was considered the world's deepest manually dug hole. The mine operated from 1871 to 1914, during which times miners extracted 660 pounds of diamonds. The process of mining valuable resources, like all treasures, comes with a significant risk. Mining is not for the faint-hearted. In the early days of prospecting, there is often a feverish, almost chaotic atmosphere. Miners dig frantically. This leads to numerous dangers, as the most real being constant risk of collapses. Apparently, this is what urged workers to hurry. The mine walls are prone to sudden collapse, with tons of earth capable of crushing miners. The mine was also vulnerable to flooding. Other working conditions cause hazards to miners' health, with just the right environment for chronic diseases to develop. However, despite the risks, work at the Kimberley mine continued for decades, as it seemed that diamonds had a magical effect on people's minds. Diamond Treasure, the Diavik Diamond Mine in Canada, is located on an island unofficially named East Island in the waters of Lac de Gras. The barren local landscape means that only icy roads are accessible in winter. The lake is rich in salmon, and to prevent damage to the fragile ecosystem and avoid flooding, the mine is surrounded by a 2.5-mile-long dam. The safety of the open pits is ensured only by keeping the lake's water at bay. However, despite high operating costs, companies continue to finance mining operations. Around 8 million carats of diamonds were extracted annually there, and by 2012, the open pit was completely mined out and the extraction moved underground. Diavik is recognized as one of the most dangerous places in the world due to its climate conditions and risks. Yet, the diamond treasure keeps luring people in. Now, after diamond mines, we'll show you dazzling sapphire. The Great Blue Hole is a massive underwater sinkhole located at the center of Lighthouse Reef. This atoll is part of the Belize Barrier Reef near the Yucatan Peninsula. A breathtaking sight. From above, the hole looks like a perfect dark blue circle amidst azure waters. The beauty measures around 1,000 feet in diameter, but deep below it lies a dangerous underwater abyss. The Blue Hole is just one part of the Belize Barrier Reef Reserve System, now a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Despite its alluring beauty, this place is incredibly dangerous. Primarily, the depth and structure of the hole pose many hidden challenges for divers. After all, they are literally diving into the abyss. As the light fades at greater depths, the water quickly becomes cooler, and the composition of the water changes at 130 feet. There's a risk of encountering decompression sickness, which often becomes life-threatening. Nonetheless, the Great Blue Hole continues to attract the most daring divers from around the world. But let me ask you, would you like to see what's beneath those waters? Sometimes a hole becomes a nature reserve, creating oases of untouched wilderness. Red Lake holds the title of the deepest lake in Europe. It's 935 feet to the bottom and 656 feet in diameter. The steep rocky shores made it relatively inaccessible, but in fact, this is far from an ordinary lake. It's a karst sinkhole. Here, underwater routes run, connecting it to other bodies of water, and the treacherous rocky shores guard the dynamics of the entire system, as this is why the lake never dries up. Red Lake is home to unique wildlife, such as the endemic spotted minnow. These species are found nowhere else in the world, drawing biologists here for important research. Scientists agree that the lake was formed after the collapse of a massive underground cave, creating not only a scenic natural landmark, but also an interesting spot for divers. Several expeditions have been conducted here, discovering powerful underwater currents and complex systems of underground caves. But of course, for the regular tourists, you have no business here. Unlike most yawning sinkholes, this one is not black at all. In fact, it's very green and habitable. In Canaima National Park in Venezuela, there's a true wonder of the world, a stone sinkhole with nearly vertical walls. It's called Sima Humboldt in honor of the German scientist and traveler Alexander von Humboldt. Remarkably, it's not lifeless like most sinkholes. On the contrary, the forest grows abundantly. The upper rim is around 1,155 feet across, and the bottom reaches 1,647 feet. For reference, the Eiffel Tower would fit inside here with ease. Thanks to its vertical walls, a natural well was formed where outside inhabitants cannot enter, and the bottom of the sinkhole created a unique ecosystem. There, plant and animal species thrive that are found nowhere else on the Earth. Due to the depth and isolation of the environment, a mini civilization has flourished at the bottom, with an ancient history. Scientists believe that some of the plant species have remained unchanged for millions of years. Chaotai is known as the Heavenly Pit, as the world's deepest karst sinkhole, plunging around 2,200 feet down and stretching around 1,700 feet across. It's one of the world's most popular tourist destinations in China, and surprisingly, it's recommended to visit during the rainy season. At that time, beautiful waterfalls cascade down the edges into the sinkhole. In terms of scale, 2 Empire State Buildings would easily fit inside the Heavenly Pit. If you've ever been to the observation deck of the Empire State Building in New York, you'll understand how awe-inspiring such heights, or in this case, depths, can be. Because of its massive size, the phenomenal sinkhole attracts researchers and scientists. Similar to the Humboldt sinkhole, it created a unique ecosystem here. The local wonders can only be seen after a grueling multi-hour descent, but it's worth it. The Heavenly Pit is home to various species of plants and animals that adapted to the isolated environment. However, unprepared climbers should not take the risk. If you're not an extreme adventurer, just watch our episodes on a big screen and enjoy the unique footage from around the world. If you've ever seen thousands of flying bats into the night at sunset, you must have wondered where these swarms spend their day, hiding from the light. Of course, they need secluded places, like the Devil's Sinkhole. One such sinkhole is located in the rugged terrain of Edwards County, Texas. This huge vertical cave was created by water, erosion over millions of years. It must be said, looking down takes your breath away. A corridor 50 feet wide that sharply drops around 130 feet into the main cave, where it suddenly expands to over 300 feet in diameter, reaching around a depth of 330 feet. During warm months, it's a spooky sight. Millions of minions from hell, Mexican free-tailed bats, burst forth at sunset, darkening the sky. Maybe this is where Batman keeps his secondary Batcave. Krubera Cave, also known as Veronia, is located in the harsh and remote Arabica Massif in Abkhazia. This region is legendary as it's a geological fascination. The Krubera Cave is a true natural wonder. It's not just deep, it's record-breakingly deep. Just think of the staggering depth of over 7,200 feet, making it the deepest known point on Earth. 6 entrances have been found to the cave, which essentially consists of a series of wells connected by tunnels and galleries. Each descent into its depth is no easy task. And the most interesting part is that something keeps drawing people into the cold darkness. This man-made landmark is known as the Door to Hell. Located in the Karakum Desert, around 160 miles north of the Turkmenistan's capital, Ashgabat. This landmark is known as the Darvaza gas crater. It's been burning, much to the devil's dismay, since 1971. How did this giant gas burner in the desert come to be? The explanation being human error due to technical mistakes during drilling led to repeated disasters, and Darvaza's formation is one of them. The gas field was discovered over a half a century ago near the village of Darvaza. However, during drilling, specialists hit an underground cave, simply an empty space which caused the ground to collapse, forming a large gas-filled hole. The drilling rig, along with all the equipment and vehicles, fell into the hole, but luckily, no people were harmed. To prevent the spread of gas, they decided to ignite it, thinking the fire would extinguish it within weeks. But nature had other plans, and for more than 50 years, natural gas has been seeping from the crater, continuously burning day and night. If you had to put into words, I would consider this most related to a hot sauna from hell. Sometimes the attempt to pierce the Earth's crust involves not only the risk of disaster, but also paranormal phenomena. In 1970, the Soviet Union launched an ambitious experimental project aimed at discovering what lies beneath the Earth's crust. The government wanted to surpass global scientific progress. To prove the USSR's superiority in drilling, the Kola superdeep borehole began near the Norwegian border on the Kola Peninsula. The drilling lasted 22 long years when the project ended in 1994. The borehole had reached an astonishing depth of 7.5 miles. In 1997, it was entered in the Guinness World Records as the deepest human penetration into the Earth's crust, and it remains to this day. This was about a third of the way through the continental crust, which makes up just 2% of the distance to the Earth's core. But was the excavation worth drilling? At the expected depth, no transition from granite to basalt was found. Instead, water was discovered in the borehole between 1.8 and 3.7 miles deep, which surprised geologists. It turned out that water-bearing horizons can exist much deeper than previously thought. This provided a new understanding of water and how it's distributed and stored within the Earth's crust. Researchers were surprised by the temperature of the borehole. At its deepest point, it reached 365 degrees Fahrenheit. But this discovery was not the reason that the project was halted. Now, the open discussion segment. The puzzle here is that a hole can appear and disappear. Let's discuss how it's possible. Near Ellensburg in Washington State, you've probably heard of Mel's Hole. This bottomless pit became public knowledge in February 1997 when a man named Well Waters claimed that bottomless holes appeared on his land. Beside the fact that no one could see inside except darkness, this hole allegedly possessed magical properties. A group of researchers in 2010 decided to explore it with a drone, and after several days of searching, they found it. When they attempted to lower the drone, they were met with complete darkness, from which a hand suddenly appeared. It's unknown whether it was an optical illusion or video editing, but others who wanted to investigate the hole could not find it again. It seems like it simply disappeared. I don't know if it's urban legend, a hoax, or an anomaly, but let me know what you think in the comments. Neutrino translates as little neutron. A general name for neural fundamental particles, and Antarctica is a perfect place to observe them. Many believe that this land is barren and thus useless, but in fact, it is home to a cutting-edge scientific center called IceCube. This observatory is the only place where you can observe neutrinos in the South Pole. Some of the elusive particles of the universe, tiny neutrinos, are nicknamed ghost particles because they can pass through anything. The IceCube laboratory uses 5,000 detectors the size of basketballs. These detectors are embedded in the ice at a depth of 8,200 feet, silently awaiting the signal from the darkness of the Antarctic ice. When neutrinos began interacting with atomic nuclei in the ice, this event produced a flash of light, which the detectors capture. The light informs scientists about the neutrino's path, giving clues to where it came from. They may originate in the most extreme environments of the universe, from supernovae to the fiery cores of distant stars. By studying neutrinos, scientists can learn about cosmic events billions of light years away and even understand the fundamental structure of the universe. But the work of the Polar Observatory isn't limited to neutrinos alone. It's provided insight to some of the greatest mysteries of space. In 2018, neutrinos from a supermassive black hole were detected here. Such a black hole tears apart a star in a tidal cosmic destruction. And for the first time, such a significant event could be observed using neutrinos. The observatory is located in Antarctica for a reason. The ice there is incredibly pure and free from radioactive interference, making it an ideal place to capture the faint flashes involving neutrinos. Despite the harsh climate, the IceCube team manages to maintain this giant detector year-round in one of the most remote places on Earth. Which of these holes do you find the scariest? Let me know in the comments below. That's all for today. If you liked the episode and want to see follow-ups or something similar, let me know in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and soon a new episode of another interesting topic will be released. In the meantime, check out one of our previous videos.